Our world, with all the power and energy of its natural resources, is an interconnected living system, a vast web of dynamic relationships. All relationships are a continuous movement between differences, part of an underlying pattern connecting us all. And all of nature's patterns are constantly changing. Our focus is no longer only on the individual parts, but more on the synergistic relationship between the parts. That cooperative process of creation and co-creation which leads to growth, change, and unpredictable breakthrough. The participation of human energy in all its diversity is an essential part of this web of life. And our capacity for relationship provides us and our organizations with the most flexible resource for responding to the complex challenges of today.
There's such a preoccupation with survival, being employable, with remaining afloat, that certain things get lost, like creative endeavor, like self-fulfillment.
Work is tremendously important to the individual psyche and its development, but we're really very confused about work. And that's because we haven't been looking at things holistically. We haven't been looking at things in relationship to one another enough.
When we talk about people reaching their full potential, the subject of balance comes up. And somehow, in many of our organizations, we've lost that balance, and people are so focused on work that they've lost the balance between their work life and a life they have outside of work.
I think some of the key challenges facing individuals are making sure that you're in the right place and the right environment that supports you individually. I think you need to be in an environment that you feel safe in, that you feel positive in, that you feel matches your skills.
We're in a time in the world where change is in fact a constant. And change is very healthy because living systems change, people change. Where change is a problem is when change is imposed from the outside and we feel restricted by it.
Hey, stranger. Haven't seen you in a while. You mind?
Oh, please, Colin, join me.
Oh, not that.
The memo? Mm-hmm. Well, I just started it. I guess I didn't get to the bad stuff yet.
Well, the headlines are enough to ruin my appetite. We were never consulted about anything. They just spring it on us from out of the blue.
Oh, you mean this merger with TechCore?
Mm-hmm.
But we all saw it coming.
Not me. I worked very hard not to see it. Like we need another adjustment around here? I liked it when my job description matched what I did. Now, something new every day.
But Colin, you're so good, and your corporate communications team is essential to the transition.
Sarah, you haven't seen who they want me to work with. I have this hearing thing. Unfamiliar sounds. I just can't seem to make them out. I'm lousy with accents. It's a heck of a time, at my age, to be losing a career. You know what I mean?
I lost my job. Well, they cut me way, way back. And I was angry. I was scared, too. And I finally just decided, look, this is what I've got. What can I spin out of this besides anxiety? And that's when things really got interesting. Alan, I was just thinking about you. Well, Alan, this is Colin Herrick. He's with Corporate Communications. Alan is with your advanced team from TechCore.
I've been looking forward to meeting you. I'm very impressed with your work.
Thank you.
Your communication ideas are some of the best. Please, come and see me. Thanks, Sarah.
If you're in an organization and the whole function, the whole definition of that organization is shifting because the whole system is changing, then your reaction to that may at first be to be disturbed by what it means. Do you have to learn a new career? What are the implications for you?
I think a lot of people are afraid of change because it's the unknown. And yeah, change is scary, it really is. But you have to step back a little and say, it is scary, but I'm gonna deal with it and I'm gonna win out over it.
Change is a wonderful opportunity to be creative, a wonderful opportunity to look at things differently than we have in the past.
What is your job description?
I don't have one. I just go where I'm needed.
I'd hate not having a job description. Well, no, really. I like having a plan.
You know, in Chinese, the word for crisis also means opportunity.
People are there for us in terms of relationship when we need to be re-supported, when we need to be reconfirmed. And the relationships are also there almost like open channels, so that when the pressure or when the stress squeezes those channels tight, relationship can open them up a little bit for us. It's the grease that makes the wheels run freely.
Having a positive relationship with yourself absolutely enables you to have a positive relationship with others. It starts with self. If you're good to yourself, if you take care of yourself, if you nurture yourself, you in turn will be able to do and practice and live by example with others.
An employee that feels good about themselves, feels wanted in the organization, feels that they can contribute, is going to do an effective job. You can't take an employee and say, I want you to go out there, paint a smile on your face, and go out and smile at all those customers. It's got to come from within.
I think when you build a relationship with someone, they go that extra step for you. They, in essence, have gotten to know you on a personal level. It's no longer just a work relationship.
I make it a point, wherever I am, to develop the relationship, even if there is no project at hand. Because when the project comes, it's a little late to start developing the good relationships that make the projects go more smoothly.
Relationship patterns in organizations are like a unique ecological system, a living network of dynamic energies in which no one part is as important as the whole and the relationship between the parts. But we need to look at each part as a place to begin the process of change and trust that as one part shifts, others will shift in response. Each person is a natural source of available energy with unique personal patterns and the choice to act in depleting or enhancing ways. Diverse individuals have an opportunity to cooperate, co-creating unique and unpredictable outcomes. Over time, personal and interpersonal relationship patterns create a dynamic organizational energy field with potential for enhancing or depleting human productivity.
There are structures and patterns that exist within each person, within ourselves. And very often these structures and patterns are things that we're not consciously aware of, but they're influencing how we behave, they're influencing the decisions that we make, and they very often get in the way of our relationship.
Hey, you're talking to a very busy fella here.
Some individuals reflect a selfish win-lose, not enough for you pattern.
And there's one project that I can maybe back burner for about a month, but you gotta convince me that your idea is worth my time.
It's 3:15 p.m.
Some, a depleting lose-lose, not enough for any of us pattern.
Getting to know the inner you, a seminar designed to build strength in yourself and trust within your work team. Fat chance they know anything about trust. Probably those shrinks in human resources. Trust died here about a year ago after a long illness.
Hey, Ray, what's up? Can I help?
Help yourself, Carlos. It's dog-eat-dog around here. Watch your back.
But some reflect a synergistic win-win, enough for all of us pattern.
Hey, buddy, come on. We've been working all day. Now it's time to play.
I did zilch. Nada. Look at this.
I hate you for doing this.
To me, relationship is an ongoing process. Being able to first recognize the individual, recognize that there are differences with the individuals, being able to be open, building some trust, and then being able to go through a process of building this particular relationship.
Say when.
There.
Trust is one of those profound, multidimensional words where we better put all the experience into it we can. And a very important part of becoming fully human is to learn to trust oneself.
Relationship with self, I believe, is being in touch with your own feelings, first of all, testing yourself, knowing when your feelings are off balance or something is not right, and nurturing yourself. Relationship with self is also being in touch with your whole self, your emotional side, your analytical side, and your spiritual side.
We relate to different people based on perceptions that we have about them in terms of where they fit into our overall scheme in life. In an employment setting, for example, it may be a stated hierarchy. With fellow employees or colleagues. With friends, it would be different. Some are more formal, some are informal. And many of these are also culturally very bound.
Anytime two individuals attempt to relate to each other, you have two people who are different trying to relate to each other. And therefore, every relationship is one involving diversity.
Now that we recognize we can learn from people of difference, where do we want to be as groups? Do we want to have homogeneous groups, or do we want to really mix it up to begin growing as individuals? That's what happens with relationships.
Good relationship makes it possible to break through barriers caused by stereotyping. But relationship without trust makes it very difficult.
I think the introduction works, but maybe we could improve the conclusion. Treat it more like a finale.
No, really, I think it's fine. Do you want to take a break now? You know, get some rest?
No, I'm fine. Come time me while I do the summary again. I think I can lighten it a little.
Ruth, this is going to take a lot of energy. I mean, Maitland is a really hip company, and there's a kind of voice they're looking for. You know, it's all image, all... I don't know.
I know. It's image and it's substance. Together, we can give them both. And the contract's ours. You know, that's why I suggest we nail down the conclusion. You take it or I'll take it. It really doesn't matter.
I was thinking, this is just a suggestion. It's going to be a long flight, hotel rooms, it's hot and humid there. What would you say if I did the presentation and you could run the operation from here? You know, you'd be like the coach and I'd be out on the field.
Tina, I remember when neither of us would have been allowed on the field. But fine, you go alone. I wanted to spend the weekend scuba diving anyway. Now, can we knock their socks off with a better ending?
Scuba diving? I scuba dive.
I think what breaks relationships is when one person fails to see another as a whole person. When we look at somebody and we tend to pigeonhole them or stereotype them, we limit them a whole lot, and people know when that's happening.
You're not dealing with the person that's sitting in front of you. You're dealing with a picture of that person, an inaccurate picture in your own head. And that results in misattribution, in problems of inaccuracy, and two people get into conflict unnecessarily without realizing that they both want the same thing.
What's happening, Anita? You shouldn't be here. What are you doing?
Why shouldn't I be here, Greg?
Well, because you're missing Wheel of Fortune, because...
Greg! I just found out that you offered everyone a chance to work on the Atlanta project. Everyone but me.
Anita, the Atlanta project involves going to Atlanta.
I know that, Greg.
Airplanes, hotels. It's going to be physically taxing. I could take a month or more. In the meantime, you're valuable to us right here. You'll be more comfortable here. You got your battery mobile, and you got your support system.
Are you my doctor?
Anita, I know you have physical problems. And I didn't think you were interested anyway, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Well, then,
but it's my choice. It's my choice to make, Greg. We've talked about this before. I am one of the most qualified people you have here. And I want the same opportunities as everyone else. How do you think it makes me feel when I find out afterwards that you've called everybody together but me to ask who wants to go to Atlanta? I mean, do you honestly think that that makes me feel like I'm a part of this group?
I don't know what to say.
You were my ally.
Anita, I am really sorry. You're right. You're right. I overreacted to your reality and made it into something that it's not. And maybe I'm just too preoccupied with myself. But I was only trying to be helpful. It won't happen again. We'll talk more, and I'll listen better.
Understanding very often grows from mistakes. That we learn and we understand at a deeper level because we've tried something and we found that it didn't work.
In many cultures, the values are that you're very open and that you share your personal background with individuals to build a relationship. In other cultures, that is not so. The values are that you're very, very personal and you keep this to yourself and within your family.
Oh, is this your sister? I think I see a family resemblance.
Oh, no. She's my roommate.
No boyfriend?
No. I've been with Susan forever. And you know what they say? After a while, couples start to look alike. Now let's get going on this lead.
Listen, Maria, I've got to get going. I'll call you later.
Well, we've got a deadline on this delivery, and we agreed to pull it together. Leah, I'm the same person you knew before you walked through that door.
Yeah, you are.
You keep any pictures at your desk?
Mm-hmm. My husband, my parents, and Kevin and Carla, my twins.
Twins? I'd love to meet them.
Well, actually, they'll be at the picnic.
Great.
You know, you're right about that deadline. Let's get to work.
Yeah.
Another barrier to effective relating is masking or hiding behind a mask, because one perhaps has learned that you get certain things if you present yourself in a certain way.
Sometimes people don't even know that they're masking. They've fallen into a pattern of masking, and the organization supports it. And they don't realize the toll that it's taking on them personally.
You're never 100% when that happens. You walk in and you're another person. You're assimilating to what the organization's culture may be, not your particular culture.
We feel that we have to take on the same body language, gestures, styles of presentations as the dominant culture. And that's very costly for us on a personal basis, because think of all the energy that I have to spend to be somebody else.
We gain the advantage of these latest computer capabilities applied to the mathematical precision of a time-proven, though previously felt to be dated, analysis tool, and fine-tune it to our own idiosyncratic corporate needs.
Say, B, do we have any specific projections on this thing?
I don't think... No.
I'd be glad to answer any other questions. No questions? Thank you.
The benefit of masking is that you're allowed to either acculturate, assimilate, or conform. The cost of masking is that it's a denial of oneself. And people who deny themselves, I think, suffer terribly.
Are you meditating or dying?
You watched me die. Now I'm meditating on the sorrow of it.
What happened to you in there? This morning when you were getting ready, I thought, Aretha, Tina Turner, this woman's prime. She's gonna slam. She's gonna sing.
Thank you very much. You're really making me feel better.
Hey, I'm trying to. Look, you're the expert on the Elliott wave theory. There's not a soul in this organization, man or woman, that knows Elliott like you do.
I love Elliott. I really do. I mean, done well, it could be as precise as a moon launch or complex as a double helix.
B, Don't waste it on me. Take it in there.
You put me on. You can't go strutting in there. You've got to do everything their way. Cut and dried and organized. And I had all the bases covered.
You could have laid your 5-year projections on them.
Give me a break. You heard Jordan cut me off. And he's the boss.
Yeah, old Jordan. But he's cut me off too. Lots of times. But he's more open than you'd think. You just have to find a way to hold your own with him. It's like you're not your real self here.
You know, when I was a little girl, I used to listen to my mother whenever she'd be talking with somebody who wasn't black. She always had this very nice and very polite way. Oh, but when she was talking with one of her friends, honey, she got down.
V, you could get down with that crowd. I mean, they'd be singing, they'd be dancing, they'd be voting Elliott Wade for president.
For sure, the organization needs to create and sustain a climate that would encourage genuine personal expression, but the individual has just as much a responsibility to be truthful to herself, himself, regardless of the climate.
If you're able to bring everything that you have, you're going to feel much more respected, valued, be much more creative, and be much more productive.
It's the choices we make which allow us to do the things we do. And to the extent we choose not to listen, to the extent we choose not to look, to the extent we choose not to care, we cut ourselves off from all the things we need to be really effective human beings and to be really effective at business.
It's each person's responsibility to work towards some kind of harmony, some kind of working relationship, to find ways in which people can work together in peace, in fairness, in equity. This is everyone's responsibility.
The only thing you have control over truly is yourself. So if you're going to survive in a rapidly changing organization, the person you have to know most about is you.
Most people believe they know themselves well, meaning by that their values and how their values affect how they behave. My premise is that most of us do not know ourselves very well, that is a tremendously exciting learning process, but that we start pretty much at base zero.
On a day-to-day basis, I really try to listen to myself. In the past, that meant just listening to my ideas, my thoughts. I really didn't think too much about feelings. I didn't feel feelings. I wasn't sensitive to them.
If you know who you are and how you are, you're better able to fix yourself in this changing space around you. So self-knowledge becomes very important.
Say, B, do we have any specific projections on this thing?
I don't think...
Well, actually, yes. And this is the most exciting part. In fact, I've worked out on the computer what the wave would have looked like had we been using Elliott 5 years ago, so you can see what we've been missing. I've also done...
And I have to be honest with myself in developing a relationship with another person. And hopefully, that person will see that I am not trying to camouflage who I am, that I'm trying to be honest about who I am, and will also do the same with me.
If I can be open to my own feelings and my own thoughts and my own prejudices, my own biases, then I'm better able to open up with other people.
And I think we all come with our built-in experiences, which also, in many cases, are built-in prejudices in some manner. Get them up, examine them, see the validity to them, or in most cases, a lack of validity. And I think the communications ability between people takes a quantum jump.
Honesty is absolutely critical. Active listening is absolutely critical. And by active, I mean making sure that the person who is speaking feels heard.
I find when you don't listen to the people you work with, pretty soon they stop talking to you. And when they stop talking to you, you've lost the greatest asset you have. You've lost your people.
Individuals build trust by taking a little bit of risk, I think. Someone has to take the first step in a group to show that they're vulnerable, to risk saying something that may not be politically appropriate or may not be the popular thing to say, but is the honest thing to say.
So being open to others, communicating well with others, never communicating indirectly, always going directly to the source and saying, I have an issue that is tough to talk about, but I want to talk to you about it.
Well, what happened between Anita and myself made me take a real good look at myself. I had hurt somebody that I cared a lot about. I think as a result of that, I'm more sensitive now to everybody's needs, at least I try to be. And it's brought a new awareness, and I think it's helped me grow tremendously.
When I accept personal responsibility in a relationship, I'm willing to do difficult things like admit that I'm wrong, admit that I made a mistake, and if I create an environment around me where others can do the same, we create an environment where mistakes will grow fewer, risk will be taken, and the successes that come from taking risk will occur.
And I think by doing that, taking that risk, you develop so much more trust in the team because other people will start opening up.
I took the risk to open up with Leah in that moment because I saw how confused and uncomfortable she was.
I'd never met anybody who's told me that about themselves, and especially someone I'm used to working with every day, and just sort of threw me off everything I'd learned or been brought up to believe. I just didn't know what to do.
I felt like if I didn't open up in that moment, that we wouldn't be able to have that same good relationship we'd had before.
But when she explained to me that she was the same person, it made a lot of difference. I trusted her.
It is an intriguing question as to whether an issue is a relationship one or whether it's one that has more to do with culture. It's hard to know unless you know the culture.
To build trust, it's important that you share of yourself. Opening up with some of your personal background, taking some of that stuff that you left at the door, you know, the differences that you leave at the door, and bringing that into the relationship and start to share about yourself.
We need to deal with the person one-on-one as a person and leave the stereotypes and the myths and past experiences behind and start fresh.
Each person is fully responsible for his or her own growth and development. That goes without saying almost. No one else can or should assume that responsibility. It is also the case that his or her fullest development is possible only in creative interaction with other people. Somehow he or she must learn to live with change, ambiguity, uncertainty, and in a new setting, in a new situation, there are other possibilities.
Hey, we were just talking about you.
Thanks to you, we got together to develop this new communication plan.
I've seen the results already. But listen, don't let me interrupt.
No, we are just finishing.
Please sit. So, we'll make those few changes and we'll be ready by Monday.
Great.
I must have sounded like a real jerk that day.
No, just human.
You know, I'm prouder of this work than anything I've ever done here. It wouldn't have happened without you. I was so busy imagining the worst. But you know, working with Alan has made a real difference. And that whole team, they've been great. Not only Alan. You know what's funny? The more they value me, the more I value myself.
Weird how that works, huh?
Yeah.
What is most important in terms of personal growth and interacting with another person is that I have the feedback, the caring confrontation, if you will, that allows me to do what I do better and that allows me to add capabilities that I may not even know that I could have.
We are stronger as individuals, as people, as we develop a linkage with other people. So the success for me is that when you give of yourself to me, then I'm energized. And when I give of myself to you, you are energized. And through that energy, we can be very creative and we can be very powerful.
I think we're coming to understand ourselves as being at some deep level, one with everyone else. There's a commonality among all human beings. But at the same time that we appreciate that oneness, we also are learning to appreciate the diversity between gender, the diversity between races, difference between cultures. So all of this is part of that wonderful, rich fabric of being a human being.
The relationship process, with its potential for creativity, is the lifeblood of the organization. In a world where challenge and change are the only constants, effective personal, interpersonal, and organizational relationships are the tools for our survival and the vehicles for our success.